am here with Saroya Tinker of the Metropolitan Riveters, a rookie defender, getting ready for the bubble. Saroya, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. Super excited heading into the bubble. Getting ready for this last week of practice before we leave, but I think we're set. The ribs are ready to go. So
I'm hearing good things, and I've been able to talk with your coach, Coach Evo, and I know Madison Packer spoke to the media, and both seem pretty excited about what you can bring to the Riveter squad. Just before we get into our main conversation, what are some of the things that you think you'll be able to bring to the Riveters team?
yeah, I definitely think I'm going to be able to bring that big body presence on the back end, that physicality, and I'm hoping to be able to use my offensive skills and give us that opportunity on the back end to develop that offensive skills as well. So I'm excited to be able to kind of play at that new speed and play with that new physicality, and I'm ready to go as a rookie defender here. So.
Sounds good. I do also want to ask you about what have been your impressions of Ashley Stretch Johnston. As far as Riveters go, she certainly has been, as a player, someone who's been able to make a really big impact for the Riveters franchise. But now she's a bench boss, and I'm just curious
Yeah.
what her interaction with the decor has been so far.
Yeah, well, for those who don't know, I came in a little late. I was working and stuff at home, but as soon as I came in, she was very welcoming, and I just find her to be so calm. She's very calming. She's not a yeller, but I think for a player like myself, I think that benefits me in a lot of ways, just because I often know what I did wrong before my coach has to tell me. So I think her calming presence and her former leadership skills are definitely helping us on the D end, and we're all very comfortable and feel great talking to her and asking questions. So I'm super excited to be in a game situation with her and see how things go.
Well, we are excited as well to see what the Metropolitan Riveters will bring to the 2021 season, which of course is being played at a single site, Lake Placid, New York. But Saroya, we are recording this on Martin Luther King Day 2021. And for those who may not know, this is one of the only, or it is the only national holiday in the United States that is named after a person that has not served as president of the United States. And there was a lot of work that went into having this day, which a lot of people dedicate as a day of service. The reason I wanted to tee us up is because for our conversation today, I'd really like to have a conversation about culture and the intermingling of pop culture, sports culture, and then arts into social movements, because we've seen that really throughout history, regardless of the country, that there is a lot of intermingling and there's a lot of reasons for that. But Saroya, I thought you would be good for this conversation because for those who follow you on social media, they might have noticed that you paint and that you've been sharing some of your paintings on social media. So we'll start there. Tink, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the arts and the visual art of painting in particular?
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, I was always into arts and crafts. My mom and I would always scrapbook together, or I'd go to little art classes with her, and I feel like that was one of the main things I did with my mom. My mom's very artistic as well. My mom paints, and I grew up kind of seeing her few paintings around the house, and I love to see that. So moving into high school, I was able to take art classes, and from there, my art teacher in high school recognized that I had some talent, and always begged me to take his art classes instead of my fitness class. But I felt like I had to kind of push my artistic abilities to the side and focus more on sports. But painting's always been something that I've enjoyed and have been relatively talented at. So upon graduation and finishing my hockey career at Yale, I picked up my paintbrushes, especially with it being COVID, and not having much to do, and kind of was able to find that talent again and bring that out of me. But yeah, I think it's definitely my artistic talents definitely come from my mom's side, but art's always been something that's been very valuable and helped me mentally and express myself. So I'm excited to be doing that again and be able to work that into my schedule now.
Oh, I love that. And as someone who covered the WNBA and their wobble, as they called it. I know that Emma Mieseman, who is also a national team player for her home country of Belgium, also got into painting during the season and really embraced that. You see other athletes, even like an Elena Deladon, who's actually teammates with Emma Mieseman. She's into woodwork and stuff like that. But there's something that you said that I'd like to get into a little bit more. It sounds like you felt that you had to make a choice as far as dedicating to the craft of, in your case, painting versus focusing on sports and fitness and what it took to be an elite athlete. And I wonder if you can maybe describe a little bit why you felt that was a decision that you had to make.
Yeah, I think if my goal had always been to play hockey at the top level, that being the Olympics and for my national team. And I have had the opportunity to wear my national team jersey. But I think that moving forward, it was very obvious that I had to choose. I think when you want to reach that level, you gotta put your all into everything that you're doing. So in my head, I decided to just sit down and focus on my sport instead of maybe taking that art class. I know I took fitness every semester at school, and whether it was just a morning run that we went on or we had the beep test, it was something that I was improving on in terms of my athletic career. So I found that I had to choose and pick between the two. But especially in terms of my education as well, I needed to make sure I had my grades so I could get into Yale, and stuff like that. So I found that my extracurricular had to be sports rather than art.
Yeah, and I think what I also take away from that is that these are crafts, right? Including also the academic portion, which I've heard you speak before about that has been extremely important to you as well, not just being at Yale, but academics overall. So, I mean, but for you to be, high performing in all of these different categories is pretty amazing. But again, we're going to talk about your art a little bit more. So, as the saying goes, she get it from her mama.
Yeah.
So shout out to moms. But thinking about, as I said, I see that the medium you've been using has been painting, but you talked about different types of arts and crafts. What is it about painting that you think has risen to the top? And what are some of the challenges and the things that you've had to learn to really get to a place where you're comfortable sharing your artwork and continuing on with your art?
Yeah, for those who don't know, I've shared my story, but I struggle a lot in terms of mental health, and I find that music and art have been my outlets. So I have always struggled with my confidence, as silly as that may sound, um, and and just wasn't always comfortable showing off my artwork. And just as music is so important to me, I decided to start painting my favorite artists. So whether that's Lauryn Hill or Tupac, these are songs and artists that mean a lot to me. And then also I love to paint body images and work in that medium, just because I've struggled a lot with my own body image and wanting to get across that everybody's different and I can't make a mistake when I am painting a body image. So I love that about it. But I think overall it's just something that helps me express myself and is an outlet, whether I'm selling my paintings or just kind of letting them sit in a pile in the corner. It's something that I enjoy doing and I just do to kind of get me in the right headspace.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And, there's a vulnerability that I kind of get from that, not just with, as you said, sharing, but even with yourself. But there's something else that you said about music in particular, and then even just, painting body images that I think resonates with what we started at the top again, today being MLK Day. And that just being that we often see music in particular, but also art is interlinked with different social movements and movements for justice throughout history. Again, regardless of if we're talking about North America, where you and I are from, or throughout the world. And I'd like to transition to having that conversation. And I definitely want you to think about your artwork, but also other artists, whether it's musicians or otherwise, and thinking about the connection that they've been able to help you make to some of the things that you're going through personally, but then also things that you're absorbing from your community and the environment that the social environment that you've grown up in?
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me would be the Harlem Renaissance. I know how historically ingrained music is in terms of the Black community, and how it's really allowed us to express ourselves throughout history in a way that we don't have to. I mean, bother white people. I mean, it has allowed a lot of people to express themselves in ways that they haven't been able to. Um, and I think that music specifically for me, I'm a person who's always got my headphones in, um, always listening to music, just 24/7. And I think that songs are so important. I think if anybody listened to any of my playlists, I really only put songs on there that relate to me and how I'm feeling. And I think that it's so important to have that because there's so many different types of music that everybody is able to find something. And it's almost like another language. People speak to each other just through music and artwork. But I think that in terms of the Black community, it's been a way for us to express ourselves without having another burden on us for expressing ourselves.
There's this juxtaposition between Black communities being able to not only survive but really thrive, whilst also, again, the social climate being very debilitating to Black communities. And we see that time and time again. But another thing that I think is interesting about art and even your place now in the sports world is that, again, you're playing for the Riveters, and Rosie is the mascot, that is the team logo, but that comes from a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how many people know that history, and there's a little bit of controversy as to who was the original Rosie. But you might know where I'm going with this, because I love to bring up hashtag Black Rosie. But part of that, and the reason that I do that, is because for so long I have been conditioned to think of Rosie the Riveter as not just a piece of artwork, but as a woman personified as white.
Yeah.
But there is a huge culture of Black women and women of all ethnicities, excuse me, also serving their country, particularly in that time of World War II. And so, on the one hand, art can be very expressive, but on the other hand, art can sometimes be limiting how we perceive history.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I love about artwork is just the fact that there's always a meaning behind it. I think that anybody who's into artwork will always take the time to read the little blurb that's beside the painting or the drawing or whatever it may be. And I think that's so important. I think a lot of people just see artwork and they're like, oh, like that's really cool, but a lot of the time there's so much history and meaning behind it, and I think it's so important that people actually look that up and research it and know why this person painted that or why this piece of artwork is being displayed. And I think that it's just going to be so important for people to see that. And like you said with Rosie, even I would love to see a Black Riveter on my jersey one day, and hopefully I can see that. But yeah, it's just things like that that allow people to educate themselves and know the history of what they're looking at.
There's a piece where there's some of that you can maybe control by describing or explaining your process, but then there's another piece of that where once the art is out, it's kind of out. And that's something that artists, whether it's writing or visual arts, music, talk about a lot, that there is this balance between knowing what that piece of art means to you and allowing it
I
to
don't know if
breathe
anybody saw
enough so that
my
other people
Instagram
can
post.
experience
There's
it as
a lot
well.
of Black Lives Matter murals within New York when I arrived, and it's almost another way to peacefully protest and kind of get the word out. Um, so I know for me, even though I may not be comfortable posting all my artwork, I know what it means to me, and it may not reflect that to the person that buys it just simply because they don't understand the history behind it and everything that went into to creating it. So I think that it's so important for people to know the reason behind artwork and understand what they're buying and what they're looking at.
Yes, I did see that Instagram post and we'll put it up for viewers, but actually that's what sparked my interest, not in your art because I had already seen that, but in having this conversation. When it comes to your art, are there ways that you hope to um, challenge yourself and maybe grow and develop a little bit more? You've talked obviously about some of the inspiration that you have right now and some of the art pieces, but I'm curious maybe what the future looks like, or what you hope it looks like.
Yeah, I currently for myself, aside from my commissions, I'm working on my body series. So that'll be a series based on different shapes, different female bodies. Also, I'm going to be doing male bodies as well, but just different shapes and sizes, different weights, different poses. And I love that just because it makes when somebody sees something that looks like them, then it's out of the norm or what is socially acceptable as a as a nice body or whatever it may be. They're able to see that and see themselves in my artwork, and I love that because it allows people to know that they're appreciated and that they're accepted as well. So I think currently my body series is the main one that I am looking at coming out with and working on. But additionally, I always am down to paint somebody's favorite artists or whatnot. But I've already painted all my favorite artists and have them hanging up around my apartment. So I look forward to doing other people's favorites as well.
Well, that's exciting. I am looking forward to continuing to see what you come up with. And I just think it's fantastic. I love being able to talk to athletes, because that's what I do, talk to athletes, but also get to know a little bit more about them and what sustains them, in your case, off of the ice. So, Saroya, I appreciate you coming on for this conversation, but as promised, I do want to let viewers and listeners know where they can find you, your art, and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, all my social media platforms are Saroya Tinker 71, and on all my platforms, I also have my link tree that'll take to my mentorship website, my email, my contact information, and other organizations that I support and donate to. So I always love to see when people click on my link and are able to see what I want to support and they support it too. So I look forward to having people follow along and see my artwork and my hockey career and everything that I'm going in with right now. So I'm excited.
That's fantastic. Well, again, Saroya, thank you for joining me on, I believe, what is your first official appearance on the Founding Four podcast. So we'll
Yeah,
definitely have to have you on again.
for sure. Thank you so much for having me.